So we're at 9,500 feet and we're about to make a right turn to the Rattenburg RTT, which is an NDB, non-directional beacon. It's the initial approach point for Innsbruck's localizer, runway 26. And we're going to fly that approach, localizer runway 26, down to 3,700 feet, which is what I'm going to set now in the CDU. Please just hold 95, thank you. And basically at 3,700 feet, when we reach the 4.2 DME point, so that's 4.2 miles from the runway, we turn left to a heading of, I believe, 230 degrees. Yep, 230 degrees at 3,700, and we maintain that, and then we turn right at 264, and then at 3.5 DME, we are going to do a right turn onto base runway 08, which is a very nice approach. It's a bit crazy, but it's a beautiful one. We're going to come in over the mountains and then do a big right turn. It's Innsbruck in the distance over there. So just currently sort of vectoring ourselves towards RTT. So there's RTT now, 202 degrees. Let's zoom in, let's do some navigation mode there. Now we're heading into USR, which is basically the last final vectors. Let's put flaps 2, so we fly this part at about 170 knots, 160, that'll be 150 by the looks of it. When we get to 19 DME, we start a 3.7 degree glide path. So that's going to be here when this is 19. That's where we're going to go now. We've got a bit of turbulence, as is always expected in these mountains. Flying airliners. Don't actually fly to it, I don't think. But the green number looks very nice in the mountains. This here is the carbon. This is the carbon mountain range. It's a very rocky area, it's much more alpine. A lot of these areas here are very hilly, and then as we go further to the west, we get more and more mountains. So coming in there, I think, heading for this gap in the mountains, and just after that we're going to start the descent. So probably just take the flaps out and let the speed go back up to 190. It's not going to be a problem. All the lights are on. Is being warned now. So I'm going to make a right turn onto the localizer towards OE19A is the waypoint here, which is basically the 19 DME point. What we need, let's set up the FPA, so minus 3.7. I'm going to put it as minus 3.6. Just because we don't actually need to be landing, we just need to get down to 3,700. So you see the runway there. With the wind that we've actually got at this altitude, we'd probably be more likely to land on that runway, but just because I want to do this approach and the wind is actually 180 degrees at 1 knot, basically it doesn't really matter which runway we land on. You can see why we have to stay at above 9,500 until we actually reach the DME, because otherwise we're going to hit this mountain here. Got 19.6 DME there. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I click that in now. Now we should start our descent. So So now we're descending towards the localizer. Put LS on. Suddenly it's an actual ILS. It's not an actual ILS.
2,500.
Just check the radio navigation they've set up there. That's not ideal. Yeah, so it seems like what Microsoft has done is just put in a bog standard ILS system that just goes straight to the runway, because you can see here we're registering it's way far to the right, which isn't very accurate, to be honest, as it is an offset localizer, so you just sort of come in from the right and then make a kind of final turn just before the river here. So that's not really accurate, but we're going to ignore that basically, and we're going to fly down what the FMC's got here. So this FMC is pretty much accurate, and the only thing that we do need to watch out for is OAV 4.2. At 4.2, that's when we're going to do our right turn onto the final approach. It's going to use a smidge of ski brake, yeah, the ski brake, that's what it is. Obviously speed brake. Coming in over the mountains, we've got the Rattenburg here, that's the 2,800 meters behind Rupp. Hall, so this is Hall here. Actually these trees are very accurate, there's a few roads where they've got this really nice tree-lined roads up there. In this area, this is like the industrial area. And this is Mulau. Bradel and Tivoli, the stadium of Innsbruck there. And on the left we have Birgitz and the Axams. So Birgitz is actually a ski area. You can see the ski run down there, the break in the trees, and then that's the mountain back there that the ski area is named after. And then over here, the next one along, we've got Axams, and that's also got a ski area running down it. And then this is, I think, Tulfus. Then we have Lance over here, Eagles. That's some little villages all up in the mountains. So now 9.4 DME, so still not making that turn yet. I'm not actually going to bother to click on approach mode, because if I click approach mode, what's going to happen is it's just going to follow this glide path all the way down, and I actually only want to go down to 3,700. So I don't really want to be following it the entire way. And also if I engage that, it will ignore any altitude constraints that I've tried to put in, which we also don't want. I'm going to set up my heading of 230.
2,500.
So just made a left turn onto 230 degrees, and we're basically just now going to watch out for a few visual cues. So basically where this terrain starts here, I'm going to turn right to a heading of 264, so that's a downwind leg. And I'm going to probably drop the gear down at some point over Axams. So put the terrain on ND up. So when we cross over this sort of river, this is the Sill coming from the Brenner Pass. When I've crossed that river, that's when I need to actually be. So there's the Sillschlucht here, which is the gorge. So now I need to turn right 264. And we just stay at 3,700.
1,000.
You can see why this approach is in the extreme approaches. We're very low to the ground. And here's the airport
1,000.
here.
1,000.
So at this point now I'm going to fully configure since I'm on my downwind leg. Let's check the cabin, let's drop the gear down.
Flight attendants, please prepare.
And basically we look for the church at Axams, so I'm actually going to adjust a little bit to the left. So this is the church, this is Birgitz, and this is Axams, so we're actually aiming for the Axams church, which is that one there. So we could have probably flown 230 for a little bit longer. But this is a visual approach, so it basically doesn't matter what we do, as long as we are visual separated from any terrain. Put down flaps full, because we're about to turn on final. So the turn is supposed to happen at 3.5 OEV. So at 2.3 now, so we've got another 1 mile, and then we're going to do our big right turn. And this is the one that's sort of famous, and you can see if we go over to the first officer side, the terrain that we have to basically bank over and then drop down underneath. So that's basically the reason for the crazy approach. So I'm just going to make sure I can still see the church. Axams, there's the church, it's disappearing underneath the nose now. 3.1, 2, 3, 4. There's 3.5 DME, so now I'm going to turn right. I'm going to use 30-degree bank angle. I'm going to stay at 3.7 until I can see that I can actually go down. So now I know, roughly, this is Kamaten that we just turned onto, this village here ahead of us. So now we're going to start a bit of a descent. Looking, there's the runway there, you can see we're quite high, so we need to do a bit of a descent now.
500.
You can see the runway top right of the screen. So I'm just sort of descending now. A pretty high rate of descent, to be honest. There's the Pappy, we've got 1 red, so just keep it descending for now. And then we know it's a 3.7 degree glide path, so it's going to be quite a steep rate of descent, just a bit more bank. We're on final. Nicely lined up, to be honest. We're going to be able to sort this out before we get to the runway, so this is an easy landing for me. There we go, a little bit too high again, so back down, and I'm just sort of micro adjusting it to keep it on the glide path and centre line. 800 feet per minute, 900 feet per minute is fine for this approach. Let's just check the spoilers are armed. Yep, they are armed in the
100
green.
above.
This is the Sutterstrasse, this little cluster of buildings in front of the runway. This is a big shopping area, basically. Schule, this is the blue roof on the left. I've got Möbelix as well. There's the glide path again, coming in over the favourite spot for all the students to hang out on the beach at the river.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard. Retard. Retard.
Why is that not retarding? Full ground reverse. 80 knots. So let's turn off the reversers, and if we try and brake hard enough, we'll be able to make the exit here. Let's just release the auto brake. Try manual braking. Flaps up. Spoiler off. Our asking the aircraft not to stop. Okay, something's up with my detents because that is way too fast. You can see how quickly I'm just slightly tapping the throttle and it's already all the way up. So the detents have changed since I last logged in. I think it's because my flight simulator decided to completely rip itself out and do a clean install, so now my throttle idle is 40% in. So let's just spin to the right, spin to the left, and I'm going to set up those detents properly. Luckily I was in the right detent for the whole approach. Fairly reasonably. Let's put the parking brake on because this is obviously never going to go anywhere. Put those off. There we go, now I've disengaged engines. Turn everything off.